Hey, welcome back to the shop. Let's get right into this. This is a piece of ambrosia maple, about 17.5 inches by about 4.5 inches thick. I'm only able to run the lathe at around 400 RPM, so I'm taking it slow, but the video sped up. Yeah, I try to get that roughed out, and as I get close to the edge, I start to stop short because I don't want to remove the bark. So if you're doing this, you have to do that part from the other side. You will see later in the video. See here, I start to stop short. Here I'm flattening the bottom. I'm marking the center because I'm not using a tailstock and I want to be able to know where the center is just in case. Mark for my tenon. I'm using a 5/8 40/40 gouge. I'm cutting the tenon. Here I'm just gonna redefine it with a skew chisel. And here's where the rubber meets the road. You have to be very careful here and be very steady because as you can see, that propeller is really close to my elbow. You just have to lean, prep like 2-3 inches to move in. I try to cut right to the until I get a clean edge. This way you don't break the bark. And as you can see, I go a little deeper than what I have at the bottom because this is a difficult cut, so I prefer to blend the two cuts from the other side. So I went from the other side, but I went a little deeper than my other cut from before, so I had to go back and do it from the other side. But this is the beauty about shooting video. So I want to do a bit of an orgy, but it's difficult with the 40/40 right up against the tenon. So I have to like go in and kind of like curb the gouge fairly quick. And what happens is I'm doing that is like I'm right in the bevel. And as I start to do this turn, I turn too much. And because I have a double bevel, the secondary line, the bottom of the bevel is right in. So I'm gonna get some lines. Here I'm cutting air, so this got nothing to do with it. It was just the bit prior to it. You will see when I stop, and I couldn't figure it out before why I was getting lines when I thought I was smooth cut, but as you can see, I'm gonna highlight here where the lines are. That's exactly where I was basically rubbing the bevel instead of writing it. And yeah, that's how we learn. So one more time from the outside and try to blend it from the inside. Almost happy with that. Just clean up a couple bumps. There's few lines, but I can deal with those easily with shear scraping. I use a 60-degree swept back for that, and that's nice and smooth. And then I'm gonna move to when you turn in wet wood, you make the tenon and then it's gonna change by the time you're done. So I like to, this is very important, I like to redefine my tenon one more time just before chucking, because it will make a world of a difference of how true your piece runs when you flip it around. And you want that right up against the shoulder of the chuck. Now doing the inside, you have to take very light cuts because you don't want to break the bark. Here's where the rubber meets the road again. You have to go really slow and you cannot go past the width of your wing because you're gonna get a huge cut, so you can only go so deep. And here is where you decide what your thickness is gonna be. You want to make this clean up and make a cut, clean up and make a cut, but you want to, when you line up your gouge for your next kind of finishing bit, you want to line it up with the outside, look over at the outside of the bowl. That way you're keeping a consistent thickness to it. Just check. If you get any lines, just try to do it again or make it slightly thinner, do another pass. But so here, rinse and repeat. I'm taking my time to line it up just to make sure that I don't get any lines between one section and the next. But if you do, get a scraper or something and clean it up. Don't move forward because you're gonna regret it. So once you pass all the bark, you can just remove the rest of it like the way you will normally hollow a bowl. Here I'm using an Ashley hardwood bottom of the bowl gouge, and this is a bad angle, so I'm just gonna switch the camera to a better spot. And there's a couple bumps that I wasn't happy with, so I use a half round nose scraper to clean that up. And so what I did was I left the bowl on the chuck and I put a light over, like an incandescent light, for like 2 days to dry it out, because you can't really sand this stuff wet. So my chuck got completely rusted. Here's what it looked like afterwards. And here's my finished bottom. 2 days later, I give it 2 coats of sanding sealer. Once dry, I sand the inside of the bowl with a late run-in, and then I spot sand the wings. Here is everybody's favorite part. This is Mahoney's walnut oil. And yeah, this is when you see your piece come alive. I have a Laguna vacuum inverter that works with a compressor rather than a vacuum pump. So I have an adapter for my chuck. I line it up. I turn my inverter on so it holds a piece. I remove my chuck. I put the tailstock back on and I turn the inverter off. That way I don't have to worry about anything flying off my lathe. Then I turn my tenon off. I turn a bead at the bottom because I'm sick of just flat bottoms. Then I did some power sanding to smooth out the curve. A little bit of hand sanding until it's nice and smooth. Put on my finish and my laser engraved signature. And that's what she looks like. So thank you for hanging out with me. I hope that helps you out. You should give it a shot. And I'll catch up with you on the next one. Ciao, ciao.